fascism is a very important ideology that I think is incredibly pervasive, and it's what you're fighting against with this organization. It's what you're having to take on. Let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, what fascism is not, briefly. It is not racism, it is not white supremacy, and it is not the Nazi Party, though the Nazi Party believed in fascism. Okay, but fascism is not Nazism. White supremacists are, at times, fascists. But fascism is not white supremacy. There are racists who are fascists. But fascism is not racism. They're very different things. So, George Orwell once said this. He wrote, "The word fascism is almost entirely meaningless." He said, "There are people who recklessly fling the word fascist in every direction, and they attach at any rate an emotional significance to it. By fascism, they mean, roughly speaking, mean, cruel, unscrupulous, arrogant, anti-liberal, anti-working class. Except for the relatively small number of fascist sympathizers, almost any English person would accept bully as a synonym for fascist." George Orwell wrote that in 1946. How many of you think it still applies today? I think it absolutely does. Absolutely. The word fascist is entirely meaningless in this culture. People don't know what it is, but they know it's a bad thing. And so if I call you a fascist, I'm calling you something terrible. Corporativissimo means the collective. All of us. Mussolini in 1932 wrote this in The Doctrine of Fascism. He said, "In the fascist state, the individual is not suppressed, but rather multiplied. Just as in a regiment, a soldier is not weakened, but is multiplied by the number of his comrades. The fascist state organizes the nation, but it leaves sufficient scope to individuals." Now this is important. "It has limited useless or harmful liberties, and it has preserved those that are essential. It cannot be the individual who decides in this matter, but only the state." So what is corporativissimo? What is the definition of corporatism? It is the idea that there is no individual. The individual does not matter. Sure, you have some rights. Sure, you have some abilities. Sure, you're allowed to have some things. In the fascist state, you can own property, so long as the collective doesn't need that property. But if the greater good of the collective is served by taking that from you, we have every right to it, because the individual is multiplied and strengthened. This is the real battle that we're fighting, folks. What we need to be dealing with is the issue of fascism, or the idea that you as an individual have no rights. You as an individual do not matter. And that the only thing that matters is the collective, the greater good. Because the truth is that there is no greater good. There is no collective. It's lobbyists, it's politicians, it's special interest groups. It's those who have influence using the power of law to claim that they are protecting the collective when they're really enriching themselves.